Hello, my absolutely beautiful astrology soulmates. It's me, Stormie Grace, and welcome back to the channel. I am grateful to have you here. And in this video, we're going to dive in and talk about the upcoming total full moon lunar eclipse that is happening in Virgo. This is coming up March 14th. Just a day later, we're going to have Mercury Retrograde. It's a time. March is a time. And this being a total lunar eclipse is our indicator that we're not just having a full moon. We're not just having an eclipse, right? And so it's not that it's so rare or anything like that, but when we have a total eclipse, we get a reset. There's karmic release that happens. There's dharmic energy that comes in. You know, you did something well last time. Now you're getting a little bit of those points coming back to you. But what it absolutely does is reset and shift the foundations emotionally of stories or ideas or lives, the way we've been living our lives. So it's a pretty big time. Not to mention that March just is astrologically charged. The two eclipses, the retrogrades, we've got the astrological new year coming in. There's a major planetary shift with Neptune moving into Aries. So it is a busy month. Now, I hope you've checked out your March 2025 horoscope. So make sure you click the video. I'll put the playlist at the end here. And you just click in there and listen for your sign and see what's coming up in the general. Now, as always, what's going to make this better is looking at it against your astrology, because your astrology is the best astrology. So you want to make sure that you have your chart so that you can look up these degrees, these 23 degrees of Virgo on your chart, and see exactly where it's happening in your chart. Because as good as all of us are as astrologers, the general reading is not going to be exactly correct for anybody. And I want you to have the goodness, because I want you to see what's coming your way, and I want you to be able to use your astrology to make really smart and informed decisions. When things are coming a bit unexpectedly, per se, I want you to be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm ready to be flexible and to shift. So we're going to jump in. We're going to do a dive in here. I'm going to break it down. I'm also going to break down the cycle that is a part of this lunation. But before we jump in, the Venus Reset program is still on sale. It's going to be on sale until April 12th, 22 glorious days where I am just digging into femininity around here. I am digging into soft. I am digging into let it be. Venus is heavy in the business of stress reduction. Calm down, calm the hell down, right? So 22 brilliant, glorious days of coming to know Venus, cleaning out that sacred pelvic bowl, how you sit, what your hips are holding on to. Actually do it. Do a little bit of a test. Do just a little bit of a test for yourself, and it'll let you know if this is valuable to you or not. Sit down on the floor and try to squat, or try to get into butterfly position. Try to get into frog pose. If you've never seen those, I'll make sure that there's a little link so you can see how to do them. And the tightness of your hips will tell you a lot about what is stored in there as well, because it's not just flexibility. Here's another test, right? Whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. For you to go into the presence of masculine energy and see how your body feels. How do you respond? Are you able to be soft and be easy, or is there a defense mechanism that comes up in you, right? Can you relax? Can you receive? There's not all of this, I got to be fighting all the things all the time, right? So if this is you, if this is what you're finding, that those things are coming up, if you're craving some more softness, you're craving being empowered, because soft is not the equivalent to weak or unempowered. If you are craving a different, delicious, juicy, creative, wonderful experience, I would love for you to jump into the Venus Reset program. It's on sale until April, and there is a link in the description box down below. Now, for those of you who are more astrologically minded and you want to just get into reading these charts, the transit class that we are going to do live starts April 5th, and that sign up is in the description box down below as well. And because you're signing up at the beginning, where this class is just joining GAFA, just joining the school, you get to take it for $67. So if that's you, you want to learn, you want to have lifetime access to it, come on. I can't wait to see you there. All right, beautiful friends, let's go in and explore this eclipse. Virgo is such a big deal because the South Node is there, so it's asking something to leave for us on a collective level. We're getting rid of some of the structure and the system of the way things used to go, how it used to be, challenging ourselves at that Piscean side to trust our intuition, even if it's not what it always used to be. So let's pull up the chart here. We're going old school. You guys are going to see me writing on the chart, and let's see what this eclipse has to offer. All right, my beautiful friends, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is a lunar eclipse, and why or how is it different from a regular full moon? So first of all, a lunar eclipse happens when the Earth moves between the sun and the moon. So it casts this shadow that like blocks the moon's light, okay? So for us, it creates this really powerful moment of not just having this full moon, but having bigger culminations, bigger endings, bigger revelations that are coming up for us. And because this is a total lunar eclipse, we're not just dealing with an emotional shift, we're dealing with a complete reset. It's an energetic reset. So what I like to call it is it's like it blots out what you've been working with, what's been in that emotional space, and it gives it a reset. You see it with completely different eyes, and it completely shifts the direction of this area of your life. Now, the eclipses are aligned with the nodes. So if we're having an eclipse, you know the nodes are going to be a part of the story. So that north node and that south node, okay? And what this also means is that it's going to accelerate our destiny or fated events that come into place. And you can see that here. We see the sun with the north node, and we see the moon with the south node here, okay? But this means that they're also going to shake things up. It's going to move us forward. It's clearing away what's no longer meant for us. Now, the thing that I come to believe more and more as I experience them and practice this craft is that I don't think eclipses are necessarily gentle. I don't believe that they are asking for permission. You know, they kind of can come in like a cosmic bulldozer sometime, because they are coming in connection with these nodes to clear away and get ready for the next chapter of your life. So unlike a regular full moon, which brings a pretty natural conclusion. You know, we have one every month. Things have been gradually unfolding. Eclipses can feel more sudden, more dramatic, more life-altering. And with a total eclipse, we're going to see that your life is definitely going to look different, starting now from this particular eclipse than it will 6 months down the road. Now, eclipses also work in cycles, which is why this eclipse connects back to previous lunations. And we're going to go into those details, and we're going to look at some key dates in just a minute. But I want to also look at now, why is this particular eclipse important? What makes it important? Well, first of all, this eclipse is happening at 23 degrees of Virgo, which means we're officially here. We're ushering in this Pisces Virgo eclipse season. This is the series that's going to play out all of 2025. And it means that we are not just in the nodes, but we're officially in the resetting and transitioning into those themes of healing, work, service, spiritual alignment, intuition, and practical restructuring. This is it. We are officially in. Now, Virgo, our Virgo energy here, this is the archetype of refinement. It helps us to analyze, to improve, to be of service, to make things better. Now, it's also ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication. So communication, thinking, being very detail-oriented. And so while this Virgo energy can be really, really helpful at helping us get things organized, improving things, communicating better, the shadow side, which is the south node side, is what we're looking at. The shadow side includes perfectionism, this over-analysis, and sometimes being so caught up in the details that we actually lose sight of trusting in a higher power, trusting in a bigger picture. So at this south node point, as we're looking at this eclipse, we are trying to release that perfection, that perfectionism, and that over control. So we're having this eclipse in Virgo. What is happening here? Well, that south node, this is the point of karmic release. Okay, it's sitting just here with the moon. So these old habits, past life themes can also present themselves. Areas where you look at your life today and you're like, yeah, that's not a habit that I have right now, but something in you literally feels like it is reached between this world and another lifetime. And you're like, oh, I know I did have this pattern in one of my lifetimes, right? Sometimes it can be like that. Or even currently, areas where we're over relying on outdated behaviors or outdated controls. In Virgo, it's going to start to show up at this eclipse. Like, where have you been clinging to control, that perfectionism, maybe even excessive organization? Everything has to have a plan, or being just too analytical in what you're approaching, and it has reached its limits, right? So, example, and I got permission from my client to share this, as she's going to be heavy in the Pisces Virgo story. But so she's got someone in her life who meticulously plans every detail of their life. I mean, down to the smallest detail. But they're constantly stressed out, constantly overwhelmed, trying to keep up with everything, trying to keep everything perfect. And so what's happening is there's this overworking, this micromanaging, especially in the relationships, obsession over the routines, but they're not beneficial anymore. So if this is sounding a bit familiar and you're starting to feel these notes of powerlessness in your life, then this eclipse could bring a massive realization, just like it is in this client's life, that they need to let go of the rigid control, right? Embrace flexibility. Stop over analyzing every decision. At some point, you have to make a little plan, make a decision, and then be more towards the Pisces side and trust. Trust that the universe, the right flow, is going to catch you and that you cannot mess it up, even if you wanted to. So that said, let's talk a little bit about this Pisces side before we actually break down the rest of this lunation, okay? Now, if you are tired of listening to this and you don't want all the astrology, let me just pause for a second and tell you the end of the video right now. It's that you need to let go of outdated things, and the universe might take them from you to help you do so. That's the end. Now, for the rest of us who want the astrology part, let's talk about that Pisces North Node side, where we're embracing surrender. We're embracing the intuition. Because on the other side is where this North Node is at, which is pulling us forward. It's guiding us towards the destiny point. What do we need to be doing and practicing and bringing in? And that's surrender. It's trust. It's intuition, it's creativity, it's flow. Because that North Node represents our evolutionary growth path, what we're learning, and Pisces, what we're integrating, we're bringing it all together, right? So in Pisces, this is like full arms around it. Give it a big, juicy hug and embrace that intuitive energy. Embrace your creativity. Embrace a spiritual life, a spiritually connected way of living, right? We cannot stress that enough. And I think any astrologer who is sharing anything with you that is not genuinely bringing up the concept of real, live, I can live off of this spirituality is doing you a disservice, okay? So now, thinking about this in a more realistic kind of way, what does this actually look like? So it could be the shift from someone who has always relied on that structure and that logic. And now there's this sense, or this kind of this deep call to feeling like, you know, I want to go to my creativity. That's my intuition. Something in me is telling me that that's not it. There's a different emotional depth that is almost overriding the logic, right? Maybe you've been working in a really structured corporate environment for years, and now some of the rug's been pulled up, or now you're feeling more like, okay, whether it's by force or by choice, I want to move towards more creative and artistic expression. I want to do more holistic healing. Or I just want some more ease and pleasure and flow in my life. Well, this eclipse is going to help you take that leap of faith plus trust into whatever is unknown. And we're going to talk about the aspects, but because the sun is also in Pisces, even though it is opposing this eclipse, there is a direct call to balance these things, right? Bring logic with intuition, structure with flow, work with rest. So if you've been resisting change and you can feel it, you have this sense of it, this eclipse is going to bring it into our lives one way or another. And that's kind of the beautiful thing, that it's like, I always remember this phrase where it says the universe guides those who follow and drags those who don't. So I'm like, sometimes I need to be drugged. I do. I don't want that to be true. But sometimes the universe just has to drag little Stormie along. I get in enough pain and then I go, okay, I surrender, and we get on with it. And other times I'm happy to tie my shoelaces and just walk gently. So wherever you're at, the universe is still conspiring to take you in the direction that you need to go. So now let's look at the actual astrology and talk about the planetary players that are influencing this eclipse, because they add some major depth and they add more to the story of what is unfolding, okay? So first and foremost, obviously, we have the South Node and the Moon dancing together, and we've just talked about that a little bit. So we definitely have this story with that. This is something that is going away. There's something that needs to be moving out. It's away from that perfectionism, right? So it's really lighting that up. Now, the Virgo area of your chart is where you want to look for. You want to find 23 degrees of Virgo in your chart and 23 degrees of Pisces. What's opposing that? Because this is where you're going to see a lot of smoke. This is where there's going to be a lot of energy happening for sure, okay? But to the other side, we have the Sun and Saturn in Pisces, right? We've got a lot going on in Pisces actually right here. But the Sun and Saturn are nice and tight in here. And then we can see that the nodes, the North Node and Neptune get together. So we've got a nice little stellium going here. But this Sun-Saturn really piqued my attention because it's tighter. We're looking for what's really tight. When you're looking at you doing your aspects and your transits, make it tight. Find what are the aspects that are really tight and start from there, okay? Now, as these two are together, this is huge because Saturn represents discipline, responsibility. And Saturn here next to the Sun is bringing a little bit of a reality check, right? So this eclipse isn't just about letting go. It's about doing Saturnian things, which is restructuring your life in a meaningful and intuitive way. But Saturn demands maturity. And in Pisces, it asks us to grow in that maturity, especially emotional maturity and intuitive maturity, to trust the process. We have to trust the process, even if it feels unclear, right? So this is a big set of energy that we are working on. Now, this Neptune vibrating here at 29 degrees of Pisces at this particular eclipse, when a planet gets to like 29 degrees, it's kind of like, listen, I've done all I can do here. You know what I mean? It has learned the lessons. So it kind of vibrates in place. So in this way, we're actually waiting for Neptune to click forward to probably bring more clarity to this. But right now, we're seeing that it's just kind of holding space for, yep, trust it. It's always been within you. Deep down within every single human being is the fundamental idea, understanding, and conception of the connection to a greater universe. So trust that. But this is a reality check that it's not going to come from just making the plan, but it has to come from something that's more intuitive as well, okay? Now, beyond that, we can see that we have got this eclipse sun-moon conversation over here in conversation with Uranus that's in Taurus, okay? So first of all, looking at the moon's conversation here, this is a trine. Uranus, this planet of sudden change, disruption, breakthrough, innovation, right? I'm going to change what is going on here. This tells us that while there are these endings happening and there is a demand for the trust to come in, there is also the possibility, sextile to the North Node side, there's a possibility for unexpected opportunities, right? You couldn't even see them coming. It's like you couldn't even make it up. And it seems like, no, this is all, if I let go of the control, or if it's not the way that it used to be, this is not going to work out for me. And instead, what happens is there's a door that opens. So what I would encourage you to do with this aspect over here to Uranus is be open. Whenever Uranus is involved, we have to be open, be flexible. So be open to change, because what's coming next might be something you never saw coming, right? Or you saw a version of it, but you didn't actually see the full picture of what it was. And be ready. If you are ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So be ready, trust your intuition. That's where your readiness is going to move. Now, the next thing I want to point out here is that we do have this moon in a quincunx here to this Chiron here at 21 Aries. This I do think tells a lot about the story. I do think that this offers us a fair bit to snack on in this particular story. And it's because we've been doing a lot of work in the Chiron vibration, just in general. You know what I mean? So we've been working on this. We've been seeing this. We've been looking at these wounds and these ideas and these conceptions around the identity. So one of the things that we can speak to pretty immediately is that with this Chiron in Aries in general, the wounded story and thus the teaching story, right? I teach from what I've known and what I've been through, and that grants freedom to others. But the wound here is personal. It's personal, right? So this profound lack or loss of self-worth, self-identity. And maybe this is not coming from your childhood anymore. Maybe this is you're working on that space of being in your teens. Now, whatever it is, this Chiron in Aries innately has this search for the identity. This is what is the paramount work of this energy. And you want to be more, you want to do more, you want to discover your potential, you know, you're courageous, you're a person, you know that this person, this identity in you is in there, that is a pioneer, that is a trailblazer in whatever way that shows up in your life. But you may feel like you're encountering spaces where maybe I don't feel wanted, I don't feel needed, I don't feel useful. Right? But the challenge, I think, here with just this Chiron anyways, is that you're not going to be content with absolutely, this area of your chart will not be content with anything other than living your life at its fullest potential. Like I really showed up and I gave what I could to this, right? So it can be this sense that I'm either going to retreat and fall back, or I have to really fight to be noticed. And the healing path here, just in general, that we've all been working on for years, is to first of all discover, have the honest discovery that all people are unique. They are all unique. And that includes you, which means you innately have something in your own identity to offer, right? But the quincunx here, it gives me this sense that at this point in the game, there's something that is likely unresolved from the past around the confidence, the independence, the self-identity, and it may need to be confronted. This is maybe what you're walking into, where you're like, if I give this up, what will become of me? Right? It could definitely be this story. And so there is a sense of discomfort in this lunation. It doesn't mean it's full on painful, but there is a sense of discomfort, like something just isn't quite fitting together. But this is an opportunity to shift that, shift how you view an old emotional perspective, an old emotional wound, shift how you are moving right now in your spiritual life. What happened? What would happen to you if the universe really did have your back? What would happen to you if just being stressed out as all hell wasn't actually serving you and you allowed yourself some peace, some pleasure? Right? We've got Venus and Mercury. We're going to talk about those in just a minute, but we've got these together in Aries as well. So this Aries energy, especially as we continue to go through March, April, is going to get a lot of work. So what would happen if you confronted those things and challenged those old ideas? Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's talk about Mercury, because Mercury is the ruler of this lunation, and it's sitting here in Aries preparing for its retrograde, just coming up on the 15th, so just a day after this eclipse. So Mercury is vibrating with, I'm about to go on vacation, right? And I think that this is really significant because it means that during this lunation, what Mercury is doing, its movements are going to be more influential, like at this time, okay? So Mercury in Aries, the conversation, the thinking, the ideas, they can be more bold, they can be more direct, sometimes a bit more impulsive. But with that retrograde about to begin, it's this call to slow down, rethink a decision, Rethink that. Take a minute, spin that around. Is that really the truth? Let's fact check. Fact check your thinking. Fact check what you're seeing on the internet, in the world, right? And then we add to this, which I think is really delicious, that Mercury is in a conjunction with Venus, who's in Aries and also retrograde at this time. So Venus has already had some time. It's had like a few days to begin this deep reassessment of value, love, money, harmony, ease, stress reduction in your life. And now with Mercury coming to get involved in the conversation I do think can be a bit intense because it asks us to look at old relationships or old ideas in old relationships that maybe resurface, old ideas in what we thought about our relationship with control and surrender, right? And so we're being asked to reconsider what we really desire. What do you really desire? And how does your mind and your mindset and your spiritual movement have to shift in order to have that desire come forward, for you to have that freedom? So this theme of release and reflection are really amplified as we see this particular conjunction as well. So all in all, when we look at it, like I said at the end, you can see that this particular eclipse is pushing us to clear out the old, restructure something new in our lives, and prepare for that new chapter. And it may come with a lot of really unexpected twists and turns and things like that are going to be surprising you. Now, I also want to say for us to keep in mind that this eclipse does not happen in a vacuum. Right? This is not happening in a vacuum at all. This is happening as a part of a series, a set of stories that are unfolding. So first of all, if we go back into your life, here's some dates. Okay, I'm going to write them over here. Hopefully we can see these. When you go back into your life, September 15th of 2023. This is where we actually had a new moon that was happening at 1 degree or 21 degrees of Virgo. So what was happening for you then? What were you starting? What was coming to fruition for you? What were you planting your seeds of intention around? You're like, I'd really like to experience this, or I'd really like to call, this into my life. What was that thing for you at that particular time? Because now we've got a story of what is unfolding there. We've got a story of, okay, we need to check in on this and see what we did actually grow here, okay? Now, when we come forward and we get to June 14th of 2024, this is where we had a first quarter moon. So this is where you would have been in more action. And sometimes at the first quarter, we're in action, we're building what we had planted our seeds of intention on, and people, places, and things are falling out of our life because they don't fit the vision anymore. And sometimes it can be really, really fast. But no matter what, we are in action. We are taking steps to build this thing, okay? So now we come to March 14th of 25, and we've got this full moon lunar eclipse. And first of all, this is a time to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. Okay, we have to pivot. We have to go, okay, this is what's still working, this is what's not working, this is what emotionally I'm seeing that I can surrender so that I can pivot and commit to a new direction, whether it's within the same thing I was building or I'm done building that thing and I don't want to add any more to it. This is the pivot point. Now, when we get to December 11th of 2025, which is going to be this year, we're going to have a last quarter moon that's going to happen at 20 degrees of Virgo. Okay, this is going to be the time where that thing you've been working on since 2023 is coming to its closure, its resolution. There's some kind of completion to it. You're turning away from it. Now, this is a lunation cycle. I want to point that out. This is a lunation cycle. This is not the eclipse cycle because we're going to still be in the eclipse cycle itself, but in the more micro story of looking back into your life, because when we can connect the dots through the lunation cycles, we can take a better view of what's already going on in your life and see where the pattern is already unfolding for you. So you can use those dates as a checkpoint to track where you're having your growth, track where you're having your transformations at. It makes all of this a lot easier to fully digest. So I hope that this makes a little bit of sense. I hope that this gives you something to be thinking about, to be digging into as you're going to experience this lunation. Grab your chart, and in your chart, you want to be looking for this 23, right here, more specifically, that 23 degrees of Virgo, and or you want to be looking at what you have at 23 degrees of Pisces, because there's going to be something in the story. Now, of course, if you have got something in Sagittarius or you've got something in Gemini, those are other mutable energies, so you're going to have a square to them. So that will definitely be kicking up the story, and you'll likely be in a lot of action. You need to take action because the square says you need to do something. I'm getting squished here. I'm getting squished, right? So you might find yourself in a lot more action at this particular time, and certainly note it in the calendar. So when we get 6 months down the road, even if you have not had this massive reset, you will see by the time we close out this year what that pinpoint of energy was trying to unfold and bring your attention to. And I want you to love into it because the best astrology is your astrology. All right, friends, check out these videos over here to keep the astro journey going. And if at this particular lunation, this happens to be, you have your moon at 23 degrees of Virgo, not only is it an eclipse, but this is also going to be a lunar return for you. So check out what the lunar return means in this lunar return video, all right? Okay, guys, I love you. I'll see you in the next one.